your child is receiving a very, very high quality education.
Okay, brilliant.
I guess you pay what you get what you pay for, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you look at the campuses that they offer, and the facilities and the extracurricular activities and all the different types of academic programs, then that's what you're paying for. So it's very different, I suppose, to other countries.
Okay, brilliant. Because it sounds amazing, but there must be something that Singapore schools are lacking at the moment. Do you see this getting addressed anytime soon?
I do think that there, I suppose, especially special educational needs, that's something that would need to be looked into, but maybe just considered a bit more. Schools that will offer more ESL, English as a second language, especially families that are coming in from countries where a child doesn't learn English and they're coming in at 4 and 5 and 6. I think schools, maybe a lot of schools should think about offering more programs for that and special educational needs. The lack of bilingual programs was addressed, so there's a lot more schools offering a bilingual education. And I think another affordable school here and there around Singapore would be great as well for families where they're not receiving those benefits from their companies.
Okay, brilliant, good to know. Let's move on to the trends in learning philosophies. We've seen a lot of interesting learning philosophies, collaborations and curriculum additions in Singapore's classrooms. Can you give us insight into new learning trends we're seeing in Singapore?
I think, STEM and STEAM are still very, very popular in the schools there, and a lot of schools have built innovative learning labs such as GEMS and JESS and maker spaces. They've really expanded their campuses and really honed in on offering students something very different in their STEM and STEAM programs. The other thing that's really has kicked off, and which is very interesting, and it's also in Hong Kong, schools like ESF offer it, which is the IB Career Related Program. So that means that students they're actually able to combine academics, and it's a career focused route to university. A school like GEMS in Singapore, they're offering aeronautical engineering and fine arts. So that's becoming very popular. And it's very suitable for students who don't want to do A-levels and might not want to do IB diploma and take, 2 languages and do an extended essay and a personal project. So yeah, I see that a lot more Reggio Emilia programs are opening up in Singapore for preschools, and Through Train schools are offering that education. Montessori again is also very popular in the preschool section there. But I do see that there's a lot more collaboration with universities, worldwide universities,
yes,
and very popular universities for STEM and for STEAM, and for the career-related programs, giving students that pathway and that opportunity to explore their talents and skills before they actually graduate from school.
Okay, great. Also, when you look at schools in Malaysia, because Malaysia is quite near the border, are you seeing families, community schools on the border? We've been seeing it for years. Can you comment on this trend? Is it getting more positive?
Yeah, from Singapore to Johor, there's a lot of families moving over. Moving over, they have moved there to live there, but they also commute on a daily basis to the schools there. There's Raffles American School there in Marlborough, and they opened at the very, very beginning. So those schools have become very popular. And, there's boarding as well at these schools. So, you don't have to be just day students. So boarding has become popular in Malaysia also. If you don't want to send your child to, say, the UK or to the States for boarding, or anywhere in Europe, I mean, there's a lot more opportunities for them, or choices. In Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, there is great schools offering boarding facilities, and they're world-renowned schools.
Okay. I was going to go on to boarding schools. You just answered that for me.
Okay.
So there are definitely options for boarding schools.
All over Asia, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah. There definitely is. I mean, you're going to have a lot of families who still want to send their children to those very, very, sought after schools in the UK. That's always going to be a popular pathway. And in the US also, for whatever reasons they may have, they might want them to do advanced placements in you know, and they want them to go to a US university, or they really want them to graduate from a very popular top UK boarding school. But I do see that a lot of families are considering boarding schools around Asia, you know, and even in Korea, South Korea, as well as another popular destination. Yeah.
Okay, great. We actually have some parents from South Korea today, actually, so very interesting. Thank you for that. Let's move on to special needs. We want to chat briefly about special needs and resources in Singapore especially. What is the current state of special needs support in Singapore, in your own opinion?
There are a lot of specialized schools in Singapore offering special educational needs. And I know that I addressed the topic earlier and said that, you know, that a lot more needs, I wouldn't say a lot more needs to be done, but I think more programs need to be developed in international schools for children with special educational needs, and the, you know, more, I suppose, more intervention, more inclusive programs. I mean, Dover Court is one of, which is part of the North Anglia Education Group. They offer wonderful programs for children with special educational needs. And I mean, I suppose to put a label on it, special educational needs, it's educational needs at the end of the day. And there's many, many children that need that support. So Singapore, I would say, does very, very well in that area. Compared to Hong Kong, offering those children the intervention, early intervention, educational needs, where they, you know, that they have extra support, shadow teachers, and they've got that support in-house in the school.
Okay, so if you are a parent with a child who has special needs, what is your advice about going about finding a school, or your search for a school in Singapore?
It's definitely a more delicate type of school search, and you do have to take a lot more into consideration. And it's not that, you know, you're looking for a school where it's very warm, nurturing, welcoming, small classes, and that support is in-house, and the children's needs are being catered for. And there are specialized schools in Singapore that can provide that. So it's a different, as I said, it's a delicate type of school search, but you really need to understand that the schools that you choose, that you meet with the staff, and they do have that specialized service and those specialist teachers available to offer that support.
Sure. Probably with the travel restrictions, it's, you know, very likely that you can do Zoom meetings with these schools, or a virtual school tour.
Virtual school tours are becoming very popular everywhere. So they are offering that. And that was something I would definitely recommend, is to speak to staff. And staff are being readily available to parents who are considering relocating to Singapore, so that they can see the school, understand the program and what's offered, and the admissions process.
Brilliant. Okay, let's just move on to trends in Singapore as an education hub. So we're finding that a lot of parents are choosing between Singapore education versus Hong Kong. How would you say the Singapore education is different than, say, what Hong Kong can offer?
I guess there is a lot more, there's a lot of choices in Singapore. International school, you know, they don't have that cutoff of passport like in Hong Kong, where it's 30% or 70% or 20% or 80%. So the schools really caters to the expatriate community in Singapore. It's extensive campuses. I mean, the campuses are very, very big. I mean, if you look at Singapore American School, that's a huge campus. All the UWCs has 2 campuses. Yep. Canadian International School has 2 campuses, and Nexus International School is huge as well. You know, Dulwich College is there. So there is very popular, well-known, world-renowned schools in Singapore. And it's a wonderful place to bring up children, and it's a great, you know, the university placement and the pathways into top universities is excellent. Their IB scores are excellent. So there is a lot to offer in Singapore, I suppose, compared to Hong Kong. But I think what you're getting in Hong Kong is more of the local language, right? That you can learn Mandarin and Cantonese, and you have that more exposure to bilingual schools here in Singapore, in Hong Kong. They have, in Hong Kong, say for instance, we have schools that offer bilingual 50 to 50% throughout education, or 30% to 70%.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anne, so much. I think we're finished now. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was great to be here. Thank you.
Parents are now invited to visit the individual room links and chat with schools. Anne, is there anything that you wanted to add on to the rest of the chat at all?
No, great. I think it's a great opportunity for families to be able to visit all the schools and ask all the questions that they need to ask. And it's a wonderful event. That's great.
So our school individual rooms now are opened at 4:30. Just check the time. I'm really sorry about that. It's 4:22. So you've got 8 more minutes, and you'll be able to click onto the individual Zoom rooms to meet the schools. And any kind of questions that you have to ask them, you can do in these rooms. And you can jump between the individual Zoom meetings to also answer any questions that you have. And we'll stay in this room. And if you've got any questions about general Singapore education, then you can do that as well. All links are in the chat. And so all the links are in the chat there, and also sent to you on email. And just a few general rules before we begin at 4:30. Please raise your hand or type in your question, especially if there's a lot of people in the room, just, be observant of that. Also, please keep your microphone off, especially if you're not speaking. And any technical issues, please email us at help@littlestepsasia.com. Brilliant. Thanks again, and have fun.
Thank you, Natasha.